Welcome back, and we are now joined by Richard Lennie. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much.
Now you have done a lot of research with night vision goggles.
That's right.
You've also researched a lot of NASA images. So you're friends with Ed Grimsley, and people may know him from the series UFO Hunters, and I believe it was he who introduced you to the night vision technology.
Yes, it was, yeah.
So how long have you been using night vision goggles to look at the sky?
Well, for about 2.5 years I've been using them, ever since I discovered Ed on the internet. He has his phone number, and you can phone him up and talk to him, which is exactly what I did do, seeing as I was interested in the subject of UFOs. And he explained for about 2 hours on the phone to me about he was seeing UFOs through night vision, and he was seeing craft that when you put the night visions down, you don't see them. They're not there at all. But as soon as you put the night visions back up, they're there. So I found this extremely interesting. So.
Okay, so tell us, first of all, what are these, infrared or UV?
Yeah, they're infrared, but you don't have to have the infrared on, as I discovered when I purchased mine, because I assumed that the reason you couldn't see them with your naked eye was because they were hidden in the infrared spectrum. That's what I assumed, but I discovered afterwards that's not the case. It's the fact they're digital. It's the digital part of it that produces the image onto the screen, which enables you to see the craft, but your own eye, your optics, cannot see it.
Right. And so, Ed was over here recently.
Yeah, he came over to see me. He stayed with me for 2 weeks.
Okay.
He brought his night visions over. Now, he brought Generation 3s, which aren't illegal in this country, but he brought them anyway.
They are illegal?
No, they're illegal.
Oh, they're illegal?
Yeah, but he brought them over.
Why are they illegal?
Well, we don't know. They just are. There's basically 4 generations, 1 to 4, 3 and 4 are military, 1 and 2 are just standard basic stuff.
And you recommend that you must get at least Generation 2 upwards? Generation 1?
All it is, as you go through the range, the more generation you go, the more light comes into the optics, and of course the clearer the image, and the further you can see out into space.
Okay. So tell us, first of all, what shapes have you seen, and how often have you observed them?
Well, on a clear night, because you obviously need a clear night, I see them most nights. I can go an hour or so out there. Believe it or not, you've got to be out there for a while sometimes, but I don't see anything more than satellites, shooting stars, space debris, and then all of a sudden you'll get a shape coming across the sky. It's sort of like see-through, and you usually find the ones that seem to be see-through are the ones that you don't see with the naked eye, and he'll zoom across quite fast, but he'll make erratic turns, like curveball around and stuff like that. Now, of course, to begin with, I thought I was just seeing bugs, but I wasn't, because these were higher up, and as I discovered later on, they've got structure to them as well.
And I believe Ed has footage on his website, and you're working to try and record some.
That's correct, yeah. He calls them delta wings. I call them scout ships, but you can actually see a little wing at the back. And he says there's a battle going on up in space as we speak. He has recordings of it, although he's been told under no circumstances to show it by certain people. But he has the videotape, and he's got it at home. I've yet to see it, but I have seen starts of battles.
All right.
I've not actually seen it, but he says you see the whole thing. You see them like firing a plasma ray, you see them blowing up, you see the debris, you see everything.
Okay, and what sort of shapes are these objects that you see?
Oval, or spheres, mainly oval.
Okay, and you were telling me that on a few occasions you've seen triangles.
Yeah, I've seen triangles. Mainly, most of them are spheres that just look like stars.
Okay, and you think that some of the triangles might be secret American craft?
Could be,
the TR-3B or something like that?
It could be a back-engineered stuff I'm seeing.
Okay, so what would you say to a skeptic who just says, well, these are probably just terrestrial test aircraft?
They say that, they say they're satellites. Obviously we know what satellites look like. They go at a certain speed, some go slow, some go fast, and they always go in a straight line. And that's basically satellites.
What about aircraft?
Yeah, aircraft got flashing lights. I mean, you can see an aircraft, even if it's up really high, it'll blink slightly. Or again, it'll basically keep in a sort of straightish line.
So you're saying that Grimsley's got footage which he's not allowed to show?
No, he's been told not to show the battles, the actual part of them fighting, but he's got everything else, which you can see on the internet anytime you go on there. Right,
it's pretty incredible. So I mean, does he have a theory on what he thinks is actually going on?
Yeah, he says there's a battle going on as far as he can see. From what he's gathered information, it looks like there's a craft up there that seem to hang around and wait, they literally look like a star, and then all of a sudden, if you happen to be in the right part of the sky, you'll just see it starting to move down. And you think, hang on, that was stationary a minute ago, and it does literally start to move down. And then you think, okay, what's it looking at? And then you'll go down, and you'll see another one coming along here, which looks like a satellite, but it'll curve out of the way, and then this thing will go after it, and it'll speed up and chase it. Right. So it's basically like looking at dogfighting. Right. That's what it reminded me of, but of course in space, or inner space, the ionosphere. I can see out probably 50 miles out into space, but no further.
Right. Okay, and you also mentioned that you've spent a lot of time looking at NASA photographs. One in particular that you tell me about that features the space shuttle. So you just describe what this photograph...
I was going through literally thousands of photos of NASA through their website, looking for anomalies, and I did find quite a few. But I found one interesting one where the STS-88, which is the Columbia shuttle, the unfortunate one that didn't make it back, was just taking off, and it was a blue screen, blue sky with a bit of cloud, but I noticed all these dots, and I thought, well, maybe they're just marks on the lens or something of the photograph, you know, on the camera. And I zoomed in on it, and you can actually see that a lot of them are spheres, and you can see the sun shining off them, like they're made of like a ball, like a metal structure, probably about the size of a small car, I'd say. And I noticed about 7 or 8 of these. Some, obviously, the sun was shining off, some weren't. So I emailed NASA about it. I didn't get a response back, but when I went back onto their site to look at more of their photos, I noticed that particular one had disappeared completely on the same section where it was before. All the other photos of the STS-88 were there, but that one wasn't. 2 months later, I was still looking through photographs. It came back, and I thought, that photo doesn't look right. But I'm sure it's the same picture that I had originally, and I noticed that because it was just taken off, of course, the smoke and everything, and there was one seagull or bird or whatever it was, and that was all in exactly the same position, so I knew it was the same photograph. So I uploaded that onto my laptop, and then I zoomed in on it, and all the anomalies were gone, and it was just literally dark blue, as if they were putting it onto like a blue screen. And even the cloud that was going across behind the shuttle, they'd even airsprayed that out. Because there were so many anomalies, they just went over the whole lot. And if you zoom in really close, you can just make out one of these spheres that you didn't quite manage to completely cover, and you can just see the pixels of it. Right. And I obviously checked it with my other one, and yep, that's where it should have been. There it is, and there it sort of is. And all the others were completely gone, and I have these photos on my laptop.
And many people have commented on photographs of the moon that appear to have been airbrushed. Either of you know anything about that?
There is a crater called Aristarchus, I think that's correctly pronounced, and it's the, if you look at the moon, it's on the 10 o'clock position. It's very, very bright. And originally they seem to dull the photographs down, and it just looks like a big crater. But some of these ufologist guys in America have had these photographs taken of the moon with these special powerful telescopes, and you can actually see it looks like it's all lit up, like a bluey sort of light, as if there's something inside there projecting a light up. Okay. Which doesn't resemble the NASA original photographs.
Okay, and we've got, you know, just to kind of throw another factor into the pot, if you like, we've got the Gary McKinnon testimony, and he claims to have read secret NASA files which said that there were fleet-to-fleet transfers of non-terrestrial officers, and it named the ships that they were transferring to and from, right. And he couldn't find them in any Navy ships, so he assumed that they were undisclosed military ships in space. Anyone have any comments or questions?
I have a theory. It just came to me a couple of days ago. Out of nowhere, I've got nothing to back it up with. It was just a fleeting thought. They're collecting lots of gold, and gold is now the in thing to invest in. You need gold to have a space program, because it insulates against radiation and solar flares and all that sort of thing. It's also used to build telescopes in space. And there's been an awful lot of things on the BBC recently about telescopes in space and things like that, and we are building this, we are doing that. And it's little bits and pieces. So that could be a reason for...
There are many theories as to why they're actually wanting the gold. I mean, what do you think about the secret space program, David? I mean, you're ex-RAF. You've spent many years studying UFOs. I mean, do you think there's a whole load of technology up there in space that's undisclosed?
I think very likely, yes.
You think likely?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the thing about the Gary McKinnon, I happen to be friends with his mother, Janice Sharp, she's a film director, and I spoke to her only the other night, and I was asking her about this, what Gary found, and I said, obviously for the record, did he really see this? And he did. But unfortunately, he has problems remembering the names of the ships and the pilots.
Right.
But we think that the list that he found of off-world pilots, which we assume are groomed Top Gun pilots from Miramar, they're grooming and using up there with these craft, is what Ed and me see. And they're up there protecting the planet from something.
Okay, so
that's what it looks like to us, anyway.
Okay, from the night vision. Okay, so you're saying that there's a conflict up there. I mean, obviously, you know, we haven't presented this evidence. We're speaking a bit speculatively. You know,
when something runs after something and chases it.
Right. So you think that the Earth-based craft, our craft, are good guys protecting?
Yeah.
That's what it looks. I
mean, I don't know for certain. Right. I can only go by what I see, what I hear. Obviously, you've got to take a little bit of everything because not everything is true these days. I mean, you get false this and false that.
So, I mean, that would suggest then that the capabilities of Earth-based craft and ET craft are comparable. You know, you always hear that people say, well, they're 1,000 years more advanced than us, then they could just wipe us off the planet. You don't go along with that?
No, I think they're working alongside us. But I think there's also something else out there that wants to come in and perhaps do a little bit more, and we're there just to say, come on, get out, sort of thing, go away. And that's what it seems like. They're just sort of patrolling it and just getting in there and just moving them away when they think there could be trouble.